Today, we're super happy to have Dennis Wilson with us. Dennis is part of the Wilson Group at Keller Williams. Dennis's team actually is one of the top producing realtor teams in town. I personally have worked with Dennis on multiple deals. I have sent quite a few investor connections to his way as well. Whenever they're looking for investor friendly realtor, whenever they're looking to get some local market insights, Dennis and his team they've been taking care of my investors. So super excited to have you on the show today. Welcome.
Thanks for having me, Martin. I appreciate it, man. Been
Of
looking forward to
course,
this.
yeah, definitely. So why don't you start off by telling our audience more about the team, more about the Wilson Group?
Yeah. So myself, I've been just past my sixth anniversary now in real estate, 6 years, and it's myself, Dennis Wilson. My wife Melissa works as an inside sales agent. We have our full-time admin Monica, and then we have two other agents, Louise and Daniel. Yeah, and majority of the business that we do is in the Greater Moncton area.
Got it. So whenever a client is working with you, what does that experience look like? Is there a lot of collaboration that goes on, within the team that works on, one specific deal, or how do you guys work together?
Yeah, so I'm glad you asked that. So essentially, on the back end, a lot of the paperwork and finalizing of a transaction may be taken care of by Melissa or Monica, and that just gives me the ability to spend more time on focusing on lead generating and also focusing on ensuring that my clients are being taken care of.
I love that. So essentially, when a client is working with you, they're not just getting Dennis Wilson, they're getting Monica, they're getting Melissa, they're getting the whole Wilson group.
Yeah, no, exactly. And also on Dan and Louise will also assist me when it comes to if I have a client that is dealing with multiple transactions simultaneously, or we have a lot of buyers in our buyer pool at that time, then I'll have them assist because it's hard to to show homes to multiple buyers in the same day sometimes.
Awesome. Dennis, would you mind, giving us a little background in terms of what you've been seeing in the Moncton real estate market over the past, let's say, year or two, due to the interest rate hike? What do you see? What are some of the activities that are noticeable?
Yeah, sure. So it's a great question. Last year, I would say last summer, we still had a pretty strong market. Things were still moving very well. I find as we went into the fall and in through the winter, the activity just slowed down a little bit. I don't, prices didn't move too much. They came down a bit. But I can say as of recently, the activity has increased and sale prices are slowly moving up. You can feel the spring market starting to really take its toll. More frustrated buyers, more excited sellers. One of those lopsided ones. It's just it's great and fun to be listing real estate, and it can be very challenging. We as realtors we do our best, but you're not going to win every one of them. That's for sure.
Yeah. So at the Wilson Group, what is the typical asset type that you guys focus on, right? Is it multifamily? Is it single detached? What's the age range of the properties you guys are usually listing?
Most of our business is done in the residential real estate market. I would say that most of the properties we do deal with are newer. However, for example, right now I have a duplex listed downtown that's 80, 75, 80 years old. So it really just depends what our clientele is at that time. But I would also mention that a majority of our business is within Greater Moncton limits. Every now and then we do take listings outside of the city, but most of it inside the city and within a short drive of Greater Moncton for sure.
Based on your experience over the past few years, and as you're talking to more sellers, talking to more buyers, who do you find are some of the typical profiles of people that are still buying, right? Like some of these residential, like say semi-detaches or single-family detaches, detached single-family houses, and treating them as rentals because the numbers are getting harder and harder to work. What do you see being the typical profile of people that are still buying them as rentals versus, let's say, a first-time home buyer?
I think most of the time now when I see people buying rentals or properties for investment purposes, they're really focused on forced appreciation. They're not really looking at the cash flow portion of the investment much anymore, just because it's simply not there. The high taxation in New Brunswick, as well as rates that have increased over the last few years, it really kind of puts a damper on cash flow. It makes investors have to look at properties that they anticipate will have high force appreciation over the next little while.
Yeah, I think that's really good insight, and that definitely very true. That's what I'm seeing as well. So by that, do you mean that these investors are buying these properties that are a bit run down that they can do some work to it? Do you see those move a little easier compared to the ones that are turnkey?
Sometimes you can do well with a property that does need rehab, does need work. I also think that there's certain property types and certain locations of property that will have a greater force appreciation over the next little while. And I think investors take a keen eye and looking for those. Semi-detached properties, I still think have a little bit of room to have some good growth over the next few years. You'll hear it sounds cliche, but we're definitely not no Halifax for sure. But when you look at their semi-detached market, their townhouse market, I got to think that we still have a little bit of room left there, especially if rates drop. And then another thing to touch on too is Money Sense magazine saying Moncton's the best place to buy real estate in Canada for 3 years in a row. That doesn't help local buyers at all. That's clickbait for the investors as well. So when they're waking up with their coffee in Ontario looking for real estate throughout Canada and they come across that article, it's likely a realtor in Greater Moncton is going to receive a phone call.
So, for the Wilson Group, do you see yourself dealing with more buyer clients nowadays or more seller clients nowadays?
Myself I would be around a 75-25, so 75% listings, 25% buyers. Louise and Daniel on my team would take care of probably the opposite ratio, probably 75 buyers, 25 sellers. Yeah.
So, what are some of the common reasons that these sellers are selling this market? Because they know it's, sure, we're heading into the spring, we're heading into the summer, right? They
Yeah.
know that the rates are high. They know a lot of buyers are potentially on the sidelines. What are some of the typical motivations of these sellers that you're dealing with? What are some of the common reasons they're looking to sell?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I think that a lot of them through the end of the pandemic were to take advantage of, again, I'll say this a lot, but the forced appreciation that they received from the market activity over the last few years, and to either upsize or downsize. And then also just working with people that are looking for a different property type, whether they were in their starter home and they're looking to get into their forever home. Obviously, just based on my age, I'm working with a lot of people that are younger typically, but in my sphere, I have many older people in the pipe as well that are getting prepared to buy or sell.
Okay. And I understand, you've done quite a bit of volume over the past few years. Congratulations. So other than, buyers from Ontario, like where are you seeing these buyers from, right? Like, do you see a lot of new immigrants getting into these homes? Like, what are some of the typical profiles of buyers that are buying from you?
I think if I had to pinpoint a province, definitely Ontario, based on its population. We get a lot of calls from there. That would definitely be the first thing that comes to mind. Then, a smaller percentage, I would say, would be, local sellers and buyers.
Right. And these other province buyers, are they treating them as investments? Are they treating them as, are they relocating? What are some of the behaviors that you're seeing, being someone boots on the ground?
Yeah, I would say a bit of both. We're definitely seeing a lot of money moving to the East Coast when it comes to investing in multi-unit properties, and then also people that are just looking to get out of Ontario and have a shorter workday. Get off the 401 and come to some slower roads here in Moncton. However, I do feel though that with this tremendous growth that we have received, these roads are getting a little busy. We're not we're not big city yet, but 5 o'clock traffic in the north end is it's pretty legit.
Right. So let's say if someone comes to you, they're interested in picking up a semi in Moncton. Which area would you say are some of the more popular areas in Moncton that people are picking up properties still?
Great question. I would say the Moncton North for sure would be number one. Moncton East off Shediac Road, and also Dieppe. Those would be the three top areas. Riverview East would also be an area that I think is undervalued just because of its proximity to downtown Moncton. It's the closest neighborhood region in Greater Moncton to the downtown core for modern construction. I think some buyers, if they do have the ability to live there instead of Moncton North, Dieppe, and Moncton East in the Shediac Road region, I think they can take advantage of that. Still a little bit lighter pricing, and if they're working downtown, it's a great place to live.
Okay. And for the investors, that are looking to pick up more properties for rental purposes, could you give us a good idea of the different neighborhoods in Moncton and what type of rental profiles you are seeing, right? Because Moncton is very fast growing. We have a lot of new immigrations from China, from Philippines, and also India. Where are these immigrants moving to, right? And where are the student population? Where would you say investors should really look at in terms of neighborhoods that they should purchase properties at?
Yeah, so when it comes to student geographic, you're looking at areas near the University of Moncton, CCNB, Moncton Flight College, and MBCC. So between the downtown part of the downtown core over towards like Connaught Avenue, Morton Avenue, these areas cover a lot of the University of Moncton. CCNB would be through Dieppe as well as Moncton Flight College through a pretty big portion of Dieppe, as Dieppe's a bit smaller. And then for NBCC, you'd be looking at areas around like Purdy Avenue, areas surrounding that Mountain Road region near the college. For property types and what areas different property types are in, like fixer uppers and properties that might have good lift potential. You're looking in like the downtown core as well as Moncton East, Elmwood Drive. The West End has very good lift potential if you can get something for the right price. Just because the West End it's a very sought after area for locals. And then as I mentioned, like your new construction would be in Moncton North, off Shediac Road. We're getting deeper and deeper into Dieppe as they're developing land, and then on the top end of Riverview East.
So for those investors that are looking to, pick up rental properties, do you see that, it's a potential threat, right? With all the multis happening, do you foresee that there might be some vacancy issues in the city of Moncton? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I do think and reflect on that time to time, being an investor myself. I think that the type of investor that could be in a problematic situation over the next years to come would be people with like units that are very cosmetically dated, in maybe a rundown condition. Though I think those will be people that might have a problem because they were getting very good rents as vacancy rates were in the negatives, we'll say, or extremely low. But I don't think that's going to happen anytime too soon. I know we are building a lot of units, but based on the numbers, I do see a lot of people still coming into Moncton, and between immigration as well as the article that I mentioned with Money Sense, it's just a lot of people coming into our area still. It's weird because like I talk to certain economists at certain banks, and you hear them mention of potential like recession type factors in our area in the near future. And I mean, I'm no economist by all means. I don't have any education in that realm, but it's very difficult to comprehend it really. I do understand that the cost of living is extremely high for our area given our average income. But I think for having friends like yourself and seeing the larger cities throughout the United States and as well as Canada, you become to understand that the ability to purchase a home does become a dream more than reality for many as your city experiences tremendous growth, which we're having here in Moncton.
Yeah, and that's definitely a downside that comes with us welcoming so many immigrants in. I'm an immigrant myself, right? I'm forever thankful to this country, but I definitely see how everything's intertwined, and it's a lot of people are suffering, right? Myself included, right? The interest rate shooting up. I am actually considering selling one of my properties because I can't get it to debt service, even cover the debt service, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the same thing goes for home buyers that are looking to pick up their first property. Same thing that goes with tenant. I believe I read an article seeing that I think New Brunswick tenants feel it the worst across Canada in terms of how much their income has grown comparing to how much the rent has grown.
Mm-hmm.
I think the number is on average, New Brunswickers are spending more than 11% more on rent, basically, right? So that's compared to the rest of the country, it's like the worst, like as a province. But what do you see are some of the key factors that make the growth in Moncton sustainable, right? How, I talked to a lot of investors that were interested in Moncton, let's say a few years ago, but they felt like, it's the gravy train already gone, right? They're always, I wish I invested, back in 2019, 2020. And they're looking at, okay, is the growth in Moncton, was that just a fluke? Or is this something that's going to continue to grow? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's loaded and love it. I do think that there's still room for growth when it comes to real estate in our region. I just think that the biggest increases in the average real estate here in Moncton has already gone by for sure. And I think that's for most of Canada. We see a lot of investors now looking at Alberta because, when prices are to get into entry level homes in areas like Calgary compared to Moncton, then if they have the ability to, I don't blame them. Much healthier, financially healthier province with Alberta right now. And like I said, if I didn't have a great real estate business, then maybe I'd be looking at it myself. But so when it comes to what would keep the growth momentum here in Moncton, I think there's a lot of things. I'll start with just saying that the way we are geographically located, being so close to Quebec, Halifax, Fredericton, St. John, Prince Edward Island. This gives companies a great opportunity to be able to move product throughout East Coast and Quebec at a much better cost. And just to add to that, for the first quarter of 2020, there was a very large increase in building permits issued in the city of Moncton. So last year we saw 22.5 million in permits between January and March 23. This January to March 23 was $56.5 million, which was much more than double from last year. And 56% of that permit volume came in commercial and industrial projects. So, I mean, a lot of people are rolling the dice on Moncton right now. So I think that between that growth and those job opportunities, as well as, TD Corporate Center having a large facility here, Walmart distribution, Organigram, one of the largest marijuana producers in the country. And then, we're also surrounded by a lot of very profitable fishing communities. So I think that it's not just Moncton, it's also people that have no problem raking in the money in smaller communities and then coming to Moncton to spend it. I spoke to someone that's in the management at Costco. They just broke 100 members at the Moncton store with and so that's just that's a majority of the population of Greater Moncton, right? So I think they've also talked about the potential of a business center for Costco. So I from what I understand is that would be a store where business owners would go there instead to purchase their bulk items for their stores and storefronts. So yeah, I think that's definitely what's going to help us grow. The other thing I think too is if you focus on us being probably second to Halifax in the East Coast. Halifax's industrial park, from my understanding, is just maxed right out. Cost of land is absolutely insane. It's getting high here, but we still have options to open up shop, and I feel like we're geographically located in a better area. So I wouldn't be shocked if you see some companies in Halifax wake up to Moncton. And I know they might have spent a lot of money to build a suit or whatever the case may be in Halifax, but it may make sense for them to sell off, make a big chunk of money to a company that has to have Halifax and come here to Moncton and set up shop.
Yeah, on my side, that's really good insight regarding, the building permits. 56% came from commercial and industrial projects. That just screams like so many job placements and opportunities. So I think that's really, really valuable insight. On my side, I have a few short-term rentals and a few room rentals as well. So I always make an effort, trying to understand what my tenants are looking at, like why they ended up in Moncton, right? All the way from like India, from Philippines. And they're telling me, Atlantic provinces, they're easier for them to get their PR. It's a faster process. And that, they've done their research. They know, the typical, destinations like Ontario, the cost of living is way too high. The quality of life is not there.
Mm-hmm.
And so the smarter, immigrants are more savvy. They've done their research. They're choosing New Brunswick over, for example, Brampton, Ontario. So I
Mm-hmm.
think that paired accelerate the local growth, you're 100% right. I definitely don't think the gravy train is gone. So I love your answer to that. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Thanks, man.
We'd love to, kind of shift the conversation to more, on your realtor activities, right? So let's say if a property owner, a seller, is looking to sell their property today due to whatever reason, right? You talked about the motivations that they might have. What would you suggest them doing in order to stay competitive and essentially get the maximum price possible? Obviously with the least number of days on the market.
Yes, obviously the first thing would be to call me. That would, but no, to be very open minded about it. I think the one thing that people overlook, and selling your home is a very very stressful thing, as well as I think we always do everything for others and other homes before our own. That's a very common trend. So the one thing I can tell the sellers is like all of your touch ups, all of the small work that needs to be required. Curb appeal is very important in real estate as well. Do all these touch ups, get these things done before we go to market. The proof is in the pudding with that. If you look at my listings that get a tremendous amount of offers and sell at a very high list to sale ratio, it's sellers that listen to me. They put in tremendous work in their home, and it pays dividends for them, and they net the largest profit.
Okay. And what do you think they can expect, right? Once they do all that, like if once they, follow your advice, right? Do the touch ups, make sure it's all properly done, do the cleanup, right? What can they usually expect, would you say, into this market? Is there going to be a lot of interest, or is it just going to be sitting on the market for a month?
Yeah, it really depends on the property price range and the property type. So given that investors have really looked at Moncton very heavily, a multi-unit property could have a lot more traction on the market right now, especially if it's priced correctly. You as well know that, when investors are looking for property and they are very well versed in that business, they're looking at properties that are around the median or below. So net right now, if I look at Moncton's median and average price range, we're just below 400,000 for the city of Moncton itself. So given that anything under 400,000 right now, if it's priced properly and they've done the work to take this property to market and make it competitive, you're going to see a lot of interest, and they're going to do very well.
Yeah, and let's talk more about how your team works differently compared to other realtors out here. I think last time that we caught up, Dennis, you were telling me how many realtors are there right now in the Moncton area?
So I heard from an agent that was writing her test, I think a few days ago, that there was 16 in her class for the. I don't know if that's for the city or the province. So there's people follow money, right? That seems to be.
Yeah.
So and unfortunately, due to social media, some agents make this look easy. It's not. I can contest. My health at times will tell you that it's not the easiest business. But I think there's like 500 and some agents in the Greater Moncton region licensed right now. So it's getting a little competitive now. I lose the odd listing to a newer agent that has had a great relationship with a seller that in the past I may have had that business. At the end of the day, just be level-headed and be respectful. I think that's probably the number one thing that's built my business today.
So Dennis, I understand your team, is one of the top producing teams in Moncton, and the Wilson Group. Also, the last time I checked you guys out online, you guys have some of the best Google reviews, reviewed by your past clients, by other suppliers, and also I think you guys also have the most number of reviews. So when I asked you about that, and you were telling me your team has one of the best list to sale ratios. Would you be able to, explain to us exactly what list to sale ratio is and how you guys are able to achieve results better than most agents out here?
Yeah, no. So basically, list to sale ratio is the sale price of the home in relation to the price that the home was listed for or its last list price. So essentially, if you take the sale price of a home, you divide it by the list price and multiply it by 100, you're going to have your list to sale ratio for that transaction. So like if you look up what to ask your agent, and I see a lot of this on social media, but the one thing that I don't see a lot of is agents talking about list to sale ratio. So in the last 4 years, myself on average in Greater Moncton, my list to sale ratio is over 103%. So essentially, I'm selling homes for over 103% of the price that they're listed at. And again, it's just being very disciplined when I sit down with sellers to make sure that they understand that we have to list it at a competitive price, especially homes that are, as I mentioned, in that 400 price range or 1,000 price range or less. We really need to make sure that it's list competitively so that we create competition and extract the highest amount for that property. Again, just to reiterate on that, when you're Googling what to ask an agent, a list to sale ratio is one of the most important questions. What their list to sale ratio is in relation to other agents in that market. I think it's very important so that that they're not just a fly by night agent that's throwing it up on a price, hoping and praying.
Is there anything else that you would like our audience to know, whether they're in the position of selling a property or if they're in the position of looking to pick up a rental property in Moncton? How can our audience, get a hold of you? Now is your time to give any plug that you like.
Yeah, thanks, Martin. I appreciate this so much, man, for you having me on here and to give you some insight and analysis and information in Greater Moncton and what my team has to offer. If you don't mind, just I'll give you my phone number and email. If you can attach that below where we place the video, whether it's on YouTube or anything on social media. But I think the best thing for people to know, and anyone that knows me knows I am this way, is if anyone wants to reach out and they have questions or they want to confirm some information regarding real estate in Greater Moncton, feel free to reach out. You're going to realize I'm not the type of agent to sit there and call you on speed dial for the next week after you call me asking a question. I'm very respectful in that manner. So yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, I would also like to point out, Dennis and his partner, they own real estate themselves as well, right? So they're not just agents that only sells real estate and don't know what it's like to be an investor. Dennis and his partner, they're very savvy investors as well. They've been in the game. They're deeply connected in the community. So whenever I have someone, reaching out, wanting to connect with a realtor, Dennis is definitely one of the top options I always have in mind. So appreciate what you do, and thanks for jumping on this podcast.
Thanks for having me, Martin. It's been fun, man. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. I'll talk to you soon. All right.
Take care.